I am making this video because I am super excited about Aduro Clean Technologies. And to be honest with you, I feel really torn. I feel torn because I should be depressed about what's going on in the financial markets. The other day, I made a video about how I should just kill myself because every time I read the news, every time I go to Twitter, it's just so hopeless that I just want to cry. We have inflation running high. We have the Fed raising interest rates like crazy to fight the inflation that they created by themselves. The US government now has $33 trillion worth of debt. $500 billion of it was added in the last 2 or 3 weeks. The fear is just off the charts. The small cap stocks are getting absolutely destroyed. I mean, the situation is so hopeless that there's like, what are you going to do? You just have to be depressed. Yet, among all of this negativity, I am still excited about Aduro Clean Technologies. Why? Because they have a solution to a major problem in the world. And they are the only company in the world that truly has the solution for it. And yet, at the same time, barely anybody is aware of it. That's like the best combination that you can have. You have a huge problem in the world. Aduro has the solution. The stock is extremely cheap for several reasons. One, everybody is petrified of everything in the financial markets. Two, Aduro is trading on an exchange that 99.9% investors around the world don't even know it exists. Three, many of the investors that would like to buy the stock can't because the brokerages wouldn't even allow them to do it, even if they wanted to. I had 2 of my brokerage accounts closed in the last 2 months because I invest in stocks on this particular exchange. I was with Interactive Brokers for years. They closed my account. After I transferred my assets to Fidelity from Interactive Brokers, Fidelity closed my account within minutes of seeing what kind of stocks I transferred into their account. And it's all because they are trading on this particular exchange. What kind of problem does Aduro Clean Technologies solve? Well, it can take plastic and it can chemically break it into components that the plastic was made from. That is a huge deal because why do you think only maybe 10% of plastics can truly be recycled in the world? Because there's so many different plastics out there. And there's only 2 specific plastic types that can kind of be recycled. And the rest of them cannot. And Aduro is the only company in the entire world that can take all types of plastics and break them into chemical components that the plastics was made from. That is huge because now we can take all these plastics that's polluting the oceans, that we're flooding in, all the plastics that goes into landfills. We can take it and we can break it into the chemical components that the plastic was made from. And those components can be taken and make more products, whether it's plastics or other products that can be made from oil-related products. That means complete plastic circularity. Now, because of this solution, major companies from all over the world are flooding Aduro Clean Technologies with interest in this technology. The interest is literally exploding. The engineers and chemists that are working at Aduro are literally working 16 hours per day, almost around the clock. They barely take any days off. Holidays? Forget it. Weekends? Forget it. They are literally working around the clock. If human body didn't need sleep, they would be working literally 24/7 to satisfy all the interest that's coming in from companies around the world. Recently, Aduro started working on the phase 4 of 6 for the Shell Game Changer program. Yes, Shell, the company that you and I go to pump gas so that our cars can drive. There's another major oil company that they are working with right now, but currently it's confidential. And then there will be more. Trust me, there will be more, because this technology is so revolutionary that there will be more companies that are going to be announced in weeks, months, quarters in Aduro's press releases. Outside of the fear of recession and global meltdown, there are really two main questions that are holding people back from really going all in on Aduro. The first one is, does the technology really solve the plastic problem? And then number 2 is, can the technology be scaled? I interviewed Eric Appelman, who recently joined Aduro. This man left a stable job for a startup, Aduro Clean Technologies. Thomas Smith got goosebumps listening to Eric. So let's see if you also get excited by listening some of the clips from Eric's interview.
Eric Appelman, 59. I'm a Dutch citizen. I have been working all of my life in the chemical industry in a great variety of companies.
So you have a stable job, with them, and now you're joining a startup. That's a pretty risky move. Why would you make a move like this?
Overwhelming driver is, of course, that I honestly believe that the technology that Aduro is sitting upon is a game changer.
The first time I introduced Aduro to myself and to others, the first thing is, this is too good to be true. If this technology was working, I'm sure you went through the same thing yourself.
Absolutely, yes.
If you went through the same thing and I went through the same thing, what was your journey like that made you go from this is too good to be true to, man, this works?
Well, very simple results. And for instance, one thing we do with customers is that we let them send a mixture of plastic waste that they care to have processed. Sometimes we are actually working with a waste company, and they say, well, yeah, we'll put it in the pot, and we watch what is coming out, and then it is too good to be true, as you say. That is what you see. It is an amazing result, and I'm quite honest about that. I'm still pleasantly surprised every day. The underlying fundamental chemistry, it works. It's undeniably there.
Penny Queen also did an interview with Mr. Appelman, and here's a clip from it.
And one of them was this company, Aduro. They walked by 2.5 years ago. And first we didn't quite understand what they meant, but after very careful listening, I reached that moment where you say, hey, this is the breakthrough that the world is waiting for.
So that's why when I think about plastics as being a massive problem, it's a problem for my generation, it's a problem for my children's, but I don't feel hopeless. I feel like there's a lot of technology, and Aduro is a prime example of a perfect fit.
Yeah, plastics are extremely useful, and also for sustainability. Think about all the food that we can keep for longer. But then there is the end of life, and you have to do something with it. And that is what we are trying to solve, and to make sure that these growth and helpful materials do not become a pain in their final stage. That is what we want. We do not want to have microplastics everywhere. We do not want to have the carbon dioxide of the incineration of fossil-based plastics. We just want to make sure that it's properly brought back in the loop to make good products again.
We've touched a little bit on the fact that there are a lot of different technologies. And I know this is something that I spend a lot of time reviewing, different things that are out there. But Aduro is different. And I want to know why it was different for you, different enough that this is the team you've decided to join.
I think it all starts with the fact that we are starting with waste. So the plastic as we know it, and we toss it in the bin every day, is actually a difficult mix, in the sense that it is many different plastics that are not very well recycled by just melting them up because they're a mix. And basically, when you mix things, you typically get the properties that are the worst average of the whole thing. So this so-called mechanical recycling is, of course, in paper extremely attractive. But because the mixtures are so complicated, but also because so much dirt is sticking to it that needs to be washed off, it is not that easy to do it. But that same mixed character and also this same attached dirt that you need to deal with also makes the more rough chemical recycling, where you bring it back to feedstock, more difficult. And typically you do have to invest a lot of money and effort to pull it apart to all the different plastics. But remember, we started on waste, so there's not much of things you want to do to it. And besides, it is not the same as what you have in the petrochemistry, where you drill a hole in the desert, you get out the oil, you put it on a huge tank, you bring it to a huge refinery, a huge chemical complex, and you can make all those products with incredible efficiency. Instead of that, we have to go through the streets, pick it up at the curbside, bag by bag, peeling it apart, taking it apart. That's a lot of logistic disadvantage. One of the key things that Aduro does very well, that it simplifies that whole front end, because we can actually take a pretty broad mixture of plastics, much broader than anything else, do a modest amount of pre-treatment. We do not need to dry it. We do not need to take away all the adjacent dirt, and we can just gobble it up. That's the front end. Then it goes to our process, and then it comes out, and what comes out very often needs very heavy cleanup operations, and those are expensive too. They're humble operations. It is about taking away the percentage point or tenth of a percentage point of dirt, but it costs a lot of money and a lot of capital. Good thing about the Aduro process, what comes out of a process requires minimal cleanup because it's already very, very pure and can be used already straight away for a great variety of applications. So minimal cost on the front end, minimal cost on the back end. And I think that is the key to success here, because the traditional chemical industry is so incredibly effective in its cost that it is just almost impossible to beat.
Finally, I had John, who is an Aduro Clean Technologies shareholder, explain to us why he thinks that scaling this technology is not a problem.
It's not necessarily a matter of asking. There are people that talk about, what are the concerns of upscaling? What are issues that might arise? It's not a hardware issue. All the hardware you saw in the video, all the hardware that they're going to be able to use. I mean, a lot of this stuff is already produced at a mass industrial scale. Extruders are used in the food industry. I mean, very, very big extruders. Of course, extruders are often used for actually making plastics, but they're massive. And I mean, tanks, it's just a volume. It's a steel drum, None of this stuff is terribly complicated machinery. None of this stuff is like super unique. They're just taking existing technology, they're making a new configuration of it, putting it together, and now they can do their chemistry in their configuration. So of course,
so when they're saying they're not too concerned about scaling it because it's all in the chemistry. So that's pretty much what you're saying.
Yes. What the question is, does their chemistry work? Will it work when they scale it up? And scaling up of chemistry, I mean, this is done all the time. Every large industrial process that you see out there, pharmaceutical, petrochemical, all of these, it's the same process, is what I'm saying. And that they have to scale them up and they go from one size to the other. It's a well-trodden path, but each time you're going to do it with a unique chemistry, there's going to be unique complications that might arise. And I can't speak to all of that, but hopefully this illustrates kind of that process and is helpful to people.
In conclusion, now it's your turn to tell me what you think. Am I crazy to be excited about Aduro Clean Technologies and its technology and what it can do for the world? Or should I be depressed and just read all the negative articles in the news and all the negative posts about how everything is going to collapse on Twitter? Let me know in the comments below.